This is a quick video to talk about how unrealistic expectations about renters and having, perfectionism could cost you one of the best renters you could ever have. Anyways, let's get started. So let's just give you a little bit of background information. 2011, I went ahead and bought a foreclosure through Bank of America. They were offering a special deal at the time. It was 4.5% interest on a 30-year loan with 5% down. So it was like a special thing they were doing because there were so many foreclosures back in 2011. So I found this list on like some special website that Bank of America had posted, but not a lot of people knew about it. The property was in Arizona. It was $114,000 or whatever. At one point it had, I think it sold for $190 at one point prior to the 2008 collapse. But anyways, that doesn't really, none of that stuff matters. Let's get to the point here. After I closed in the house, I flew down to Arizona. I replaced a bunch of fans in the property, painted pretty much most of the property inside, most of the interior, fixed a lot of odds and ends here and there, cleaned the carpet. The carpet was terrible. It really should have been replaced. I didn't replace it. Spent about $1,500 fixing the place up. Immediately stuck it on Craigslist for rent. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and put it up for $9.95. So put it on there. About a week later, I think I got one email from somebody, and the email was like not very coherent. It was, no punctuation. It was all lowercase, and I was like, this person's not really, I don't want somebody like that in my house, right? And like, I need a pretty responsible person. Not discriminating per se. I mean, it's just I wanted somebody that was going to take care of the place. That can, anyways, it was just being stupid, right? I think a day or two goes by after I got that email. Didn't respond to the email, and I got a phone call from the same person. And I had like a 30-minute conversation with the person. Just talking about this, talking about that, blah blah blah. And I was very surprised. Like, I was like, okay, this guy's, he's very polite, very personable. Like, what am I thinking, So, okay, went ahead and said, hey, this is what we need to do. Here's the application process. I didn't use a management company on this property. I, flew down there and dealt with all that on my own. Didn't know how that was going to work out. It was my second rental property at the time, but ran both of them through the application process and came back with a very low FICO score, and here I'm thinking I need somebody in there with like a 750, and it's like, I'm a very responsible person, right? So I want somebody in there like me, you know what I mean? Good, responsible person, good job, been there for, a while, whatever. But, here I gotta, not everybody's like me, it's like, I didn't know what to expect. Anyways, I thought I could get somebody in there with a 750 with, makes X amount of money or whatever. Not like, millions of dollars or whatever. But long story short, he had not necessarily a criminal record, but he had something show up on his record from, 7-8 years ago, like a, alcohol incident or something. But, I'm like, hey, people make mistakes, right? So that's fine. I checked his references. I checked previous rental history. He was living in a place that he was paying $300 more per month, $1,300 or something, and they wanted to downsize. His son moved, and so I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. So I went ahead and signed it, and they moved in. Everything was great. It just goes to show that here, fast forward 7 years later, that was 2011. Here, 2017 rolls by. He contacts me. We had never had one repair. I take that back. One repair we had in 7 years, 6 years, 7 years, and he basically fixed it himself. He just wanted a reimbursement or a reduction on the rent for that particular. It was like $80. He repaired it himself. Got a discount because he had a friend that worked in the industry. So I'm like, hey, it's a win-win for me. So one repair in 6 years. We'll fast forward a little bit, but He was late several months out of the 7 years. But honestly, I mean, I was okay with that as long as he just communicated with me, right? He basically called and said, "Hey, I'm going to be late this month." That's all I basically said. "Hey, communicate with me. Let me know if you're going to be late. I work with you." And there was a $75 late charge every time he was late, every single month. He was late sometimes 4 or 5 months in a row, and he paid $75, So, there was a month there, Christmas time, say, "Hey, don't worry about it. Just take your wife out, just forget the $75, whatever." I mean, really the thing is, it was 6, 7 years that I rented the house out to this guy. Never raised the rent on them. $9.95 the whole time. I didn't want them to move out, so I didn't want to raise the rent on them. I could have got more rent. I could have got another $100, $150 a month, over those years, I'm sure. But he had turned out to be a career renter, really nice guy. He switched jobs eventually. The late payments stopped. He just paid on time every time. So 2017 rolls around and he contacts me out of the blue and says, "Hey, do you want to sell the house to me?" And I was like, well, I really didn't want to because I hear I'm making money off this house, right? I had about, I don't know, $50,000 maybe in equity built up on it at this point because the house had gone up. And it's like, I'd like to get that out, but I don't really want to get rid of the property. So what it ended up doing was I said, why don't I sell the house to you, but I'll carry back the mortgage for you? And, he was okay with that. It's like, we'll write a note, X amount of interest, 30 years. Instead, that's the way it's a win-win. You get the house, I still make money on the house, so that's what we ended up doing. But we waited till 2018 to do it. We came up with our own terms. It's a great thing about a carryback, right? You can come up with your own terms. We did 30 years, 6%. It came out to like $1,100 a month. So he's paying a little bit more, but he should have been paying that anyway, right? In the rent. So came up with like $7,000 down, and had to have a little bit of money down just to make sure he wouldn't just leave the property. And so, it can screw me a little bit, right? None of this would have worked if it wasn't in a state where it would be very easy to get the house back should something go wrong. In Arizona, it's very easy to get the house back. It's like a very short, inexpensive process, right? So unlike a lot of other states where you got to go through a whole foreclosure process. But here it is, 2018, went ahead and did the process, and for sale by owner, carried back, and he's been in the house for over about a year now. I'm collecting like $9,000 in interest a year. He's paying back the mortgage slowly with his principal and interest. So that's a win-win here. But here, the lesson learned here is I almost didn't rent to this guy. Didn't even respond to his email because it wasn't very educated, and I was just stupid. I need a Fico score of X amount, or it's like, how stupid could I be, right? Turns out to be a career renter. No issues, loved the house, didn't want to move, wanted to buy the house, all worked out in the end, sold the property to him, did a carryback, which is a win-win for me because I still make money in the house, and I don't have to make capital gains all at one time because we end up, installment sale, right? So I can, the capital gains and depreciation all gets carried out, a little portion by portion, a little bit year by year. So if he pays me $9,000 in interest, I get to pay a little bit of money on that every year, and then the capital gains and the depreciation gets to split out by the years. So if you don't know how installment sales work, maybe I'll talk about that in a future video. But I hope this video helps somebody. Don't be so strict. Kind of look at the area that your rental market is. This is a nice house, but compared to what I grew up in and the stuff that I've lived in, it's $300,000-$400,000 houses or whatever. You got to look at the area, right? The area got depressed kind of bad, so you know, I just didn't know what I didn't know the area that well, right? So there's a clip of the house that I put earlier in the video just so you can see what, you know, what the house looked like. And, you know, it's just a nice 1-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,400 square foot. So I hope this video helps. If you like it, go ahead and just give me a thumbs up on it. You know, you have any questions, put some comments down below, and I hope this helps somebody. All right, see you in the next video. The next video, I have a couple of videos to talk about why I'm getting out of rentals. I have my reasons why I want to get out of rentals, so, you know, I'm not saying that rentals are bad. Like, rentals are a good way to accumulate wealth, but I have a different method that requires less work, requires less toilet cleaning, and requires less risk, less stress. So we'll talk about that in a future video. All right, look forward to it. See ya.